Hello, everyone, and welcome to Inspiring Hope. I'm your host, Lois Hermann, here to celebrate people who are making a difference in our world. And today I have one of my very favorite people with me, Deb Schaffer. She is the owner, founder of Enchanted Botanicals, among other things. And oh my goodness, if you are not on her mailing list, please get on it because her emails that she sends out, they're simple and magical. They make me smile every time. So
Oh,
welcome, Deb. And
thank you, Lois. I'm always so happy to chat with you, whether we're on live or just texting or emailing. It's
absolutely,
always an honor. So thank you.
it is fun to connect with other magical souls, and that's what you are into is magic. And the Enchanted Botanicals, one of my favorite things to purchase from you. For those of you who are concerned about buying candles that have the different toxins in them, Deb's candles, I was just telling her, I have, and I love to share her candles as gifts. I often don't even burn them. I just have them as room
Mhm.
scents. They're sitting in the room and they're not only do they scent the room, but she always sprinkles some magic stones and stuff in them. Just they're enchanting.
Well, I think that, everyday magic is all around us. And it's just a matter of remembering. And sometimes it just takes somebody, that little angel on your shoulder saying, "Hey, do you realize that's magic?"
Mhm.
And to me, my definition of magic is the art of change. So it's, what are we going to do? What do we feel that needs to be shifted? And how are we going to do that?
Mhm.
And if we can do it with love and beauty and kindness, then woohoo,
Yeah.
we've just made magic.
Exactly. I love that. One of the things that I like to do every day, a lot of people wake up and they, oh my, what do I have to do today? And I shift it to what do I get to do today? What
Exactly.
surprise awaits me this day? And
Yes.
just that little shift in attitude brings in some magic.
Makes all the difference.
Mhm.
Yep. Yep. So,
And you grow your most of your, if not all, of your botanicals that you use in your elixirs and your potions and your candles and
I do. I grow as much as I can. I'm here in Virginia, so we do have cold winters. So there are things like, cinnamon and all of those spicy kind of things. But as far as um, roses and peonies and lilacs and mugwort and sage and all of those foundations
Mhm.
of a magical practice or a spiritual or energetic practice, I try to keep going in my gardens. And in fact, my peonies and my lilacs have, oh, I guess I should mention my iris too, and I'm sure there's more, have been passed down through my female lineage, through my mother's mother and her mother. So I feel like I'm the gardener of our bloodline as well as those particular plants.
And if they've been passed down, they were beloved.
Yes,
One, and they
because they
were
were.
resilient too.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. And they were gifted, and my grandmother always said, if you receive a plant as a gift, don't ever thank somebody. It's like some sort of old European superstition.
That
You
before.
can't thank them, but you have to give them a piece of silver. So like a dime or a quarter or a nickel or something.
Okay. I like that.
So I
It's
know, I
like
thought
I've
that was
heard that
fun.
for myself, is you can't thank someone for a plant. That's true. I've heard that. Huh. But
And I don't know where it started,
mm,
but I'll have to dip into it.
sounds like a leprechaun lore.
Something,
These
somebody
little-
made it up.
And that's part of the magic is keeping those little mystiques alive, the little traditions.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Especially if they've been passed down, because so many of us are a mix of different heritages.
Mhm.
And so, how fortunate are we that we have all of these little tidbits of of wisdom floating around in our cells? I just think it's pretty cool to think about.
Absolutely. And I've gotten into more about not so much genealogy, but who are we? Where do we come from? Because a lot of the work that my team and I do when we're working with a client, now this is sort of just a little bit of a segue. When we work with the client, I'll ask what their ancestral history is, if they know what their ancestral history is, because we do a lot of ancestral clearing. And it is amazing how people who have come from Ireland or Scotland or Poland, many of those ethnic backgrounds have had their lands taken from them, and the spirits of their ancestors may still be around them, carrying that sadness, that feeling of loss or betrayal, that kind of stuff. So it's interesting. We do a lot of clearing, and it's been fascinating to find how many different ethnic backgrounds have had a lot of trauma in our past. So it's important to me to celebrate the good things about our ancestral history.
Absolutely. I would venture to say that there are very few of us who haven't
Mm.
experienced some sort of ancestral trauma with the land that we began
Mhm.
with. I mean, everybody for millennia has fought over something.
Isn't that
And
something?
and it just, it doesn't go anywhere, as you and I know,
Mhm.
and probably most of your listeners, everything is energy.
Right.
So we can't kill those emotions. We can't sweep them under the rug for very long because they've got a life of their own.
Mhm.
And, on the other hand, it's pretty cool to think that we could be breathing some of the same air molecules that Jesus did, or Gandhi did, or Mother Teresa
Right.
did.
Yeah.
So all of that goes nowhere.
Mhm.
So the good and the bad kind of
Right.
follows us along, and it's up to us to work the magic to
Mhm.
change it. So,
One of the sessions that we did, and you're going to love this, we came across what we heard was the last unicorn. And in this magical session, the unicorn said, "You must bring back the magic." The magic used to be in our beautiful land when
mhm,
we lived. If you think about the movie Avatar and how the people lived in the trees and with this beautiful, beautiful magic all around them and celebrated it. And what the unicorn showed us was this shadow came over and stripped the land of the magic, and the elementals went into hiding. All these the
mhm.
fae folk and all of these magical beings went into hiding because of the darkness that came over at the time. And so the unicorn said, "Please, we need to bring back the magic." And, children have that magic in them until we squelch it.
Tell them they don't.
Exactly. So,
And yes, I firmly believe that. And, part of my mission is to help women reclaim their magic.
mhm,
Those things that our great grand ancestors,
mhm,
as you were saying, it was part of daily life, using herbs for healing, and going to bed when it got dark and rising with the sun and following the seasons, and celebrating each point on what's called the wheel of the year. So the solstices and the equinoxes and the cross quarters,
yes.
each of those was a celebration of the agricultural life
Mm,
that we lived. And that was our medicine. That was our celebration. And so it's part of my mission is to help women reclaim that magic that we had when we built sand castles and made potions out of mud, and elixirs, and talked to the plants. That stuff is all still real,
mhm.
you know
And I
it,
would
it
say that as
hasn't
you,
gone anywhere, but
and
we've been told you're too old, you've got to grow up, you've got to go to school, you've got to get get married, get a degree, whatever. But that magic is still inside us. And like the unicorn, it wants to come back. And
Mhm.
so that's the task that I've been given. The mission, my passion now is helping to reclaim, helping people reclaim that.
And I would venture to say that as they reclaim it, part of it is a remembering too.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly what it is. But
Mm.
they don't know they're remembering it
Yeah,
until suddenly it feels so natural.
right.
And it's because it's in our spiritual DNA. It's
Mm.
if not our physical DNA, but at least our spiritual DNA,
Mm.
to practice
Mhm.
this way. And it really has very little to do with organized religion. I think that the two can exist beautifully with each other. Some people are afraid, well, if I go down that path, does that mean, I don't believe in whatever? And no, there's a difference between worshiping your deity, whether it's God or Buddha or whatever, and honoring the earth and her seasons and her partner, the moon, and, the mother sun. Two different things, but they go together beautifully.
You're
So,
absolutely right. And that was one of the messages that came through when I interviewed Mother Gaia in the Chronicles is the native cultures don't worship, they honor. It's
honor.
that, and that's exactly, those were the words that she said. This is not about worshiping Earth, it's about honoring where everything
Hmm.
comes from and living within an attitude of respect and as we honor with respect, then we are curious and more aware of how things unfold. And then we can further develop our awareness of
Hmm.
seeds and the seasons and everything about with and about nature. So,
Yes, and we're not separate. I mean, we are part of all of that.
mhm,
We experience the changing light and the changing seasons. And once we tune into that, we can see how that affects us. Like right now, it's dark before
I
it
know.
gets to be like 7:30,
Yeah.
and my little dog and I are ready for bed. So we very much, my husband, he's a night owl. He'll stay up all night, but Finny and I, we follow that circadian rhythm.
You-
And whether or not I go to sleep or, watch something fun on TV,
right.
um, but I'm in bed, I'm cuddled up, I'm cozy. So because I've learned to go with the flow of where we live.
I agree. I have not set an alarm in years, unless like I had to go to an expo on Sunday and
Mhm.
had to be up at a certain time, but I was
Right.
up before the alarm went off, because I set my intention. But I love waking to the sound of the birds in the
Mhm.
summertime, leaving the windows open to where
Yes.
birds awaken us. And from what I understand, they also awaken the flowers and the trees. It's like, okay, it's the songs of the birds that say, time to rise and shine.
Why not? I think it's beautiful,
Mhm.
because everything is energy. That every plant has its own meaning, just like we as people have our jobs to do.
Right.
We have a purpose. We have things that we love, things that really energize us. Plants are the same way, and the bees are the same way, and every bird has a purpose.
Mhm.
And I just think it's so beautiful to start looking at the world as if we're all partners in
Mhm.
this thing
And I
instead
love
of.
how you are able to understand and extrapolate the energy. Like I still have my peony balm.
Mhm.
It's almost gone. I need to order more. But and that it helps heal spiritual wounds. And I love peonies. But when I read that, I'm like, holy cow, this is spot on. So I love how you have been able to identify the energy and the attitude, if you will, of the different flavors of plants.
I think it's something that I kind of came to in a very circuitous route. I've always been a gardener. I was the little kid who, got to plant the little zinnia seeds along the front walkway. And um, I've not stopped since then. And when I was, we've talked about before how I went through an aggressive breast cancer and an equally aggressive treatment.
Mhm.
And as part of that, I started studying all of these kind of adjunct modalities in addition to my traditional Western treatment.
Right.
And one of those things was medical or clinical herbalism.
Okay.
And as I got close to the end of the studies, I realized this is not making me happy. This is anxiety producing. But I was able to shift because, in an energetic way, well, let's look at our aura,
Mhm.
which is the energy body that surrounds us. It surrounds everything. It surrounds mountains and plants and the waters. Everything has an energy, um, an energy, oh, what do I want to call it? An aura, for lack of a better word.
Energy signature,
And
right?
a signature. Thank you. Thank you. Um, and I realized that clinically and spiritually, emotionally, mentally, magically, properties of plants are parallel. So when we look at things that we like, echinacea is such a great example. Everybody knows if you're starting to feel run down, punky, something's off, a cold or whatever, you're going to drink some echinacea tea or pop a supplement to boost your immune system.
Mhm.
And spiritually, energetically, magically, we work with the spirit, the essence of echinacea to boost our sense of internal power. I can do this, our willpower. So I really loved that what I call the parallel path. What are the secrets that the plants have to say? And it kind of goes back to this very old, like centuries old, um, l- um, where are my words today, Lois? Bit of learning,
Mhm.
called the Doctrine of Signatures. So there's that word, signatures.
Okay.
And it was originally a way for healers, whether they were the village wise women, but mostly medical professionals at the time, the doctors, a way for them to identify the ability of a particular plant to heal, cure, or treat a particular
Mm.
ailment.
Mhm.
So things like lungwort would be shaped like a lung and with the different bronchi on its leaves.
Sure.
And that somehow could be made into or transformed into a medicine.
Mhm.
And
For
when we're
lungs,
looking,
right?
yes, for the lungs,
Love it.
exactly.
Mm.
And so when we're looking at the doctrine of signatures in a spiritual way, which is what I do, you can look at the folklore of a plant, the mythology. You look at what does it physically look like? Where does it grow? What is its habitat? What does it require? And those can somehow shift into or give you a hint as to what its magical or secret language properties are. Just
Mm.
like the Victorians had a whole name for it called floriography.
Oh,
And that was a time when PDA, public display of affection, was a big old no-no.
right.
And, you could, not profess your feelings, whether they were positive, negative, but every plant had its own meaning, especially down to the color
Mm.
of the plants, like roses, great example.
Mhm.
Red, of course, would be passion, but yellow roses were for friendship. So they could put together these little bouquets that actually conveyed their secret, heartfelt
Mm,
messages.
mm.
And so I kind of created this other doctrine called modern floriography, which is taking the plants in our garden and looking again, what do they look like? What is their color? Who do they like growing next to? Who do they protect? Who do they repel? And a lot of that you can find in the old farmers' almanacs,
Mm,
like things like black walnuts. Don't grow those near other crops because their roots are poisonous.
mm.
And, onions versus beans versus cover crops. Um, all of that is a form of floriography.
So
And
a lot of people talk about companion planting.
exactly.
If you're growing
Canyon planting,
vegetables, yeah,
yes.
yeah,
It's floriography. What
okay.
does that plant mean? What is it saying?
Mhm.
What does it want you to know? What are its secrets? And that's the plant realm that I work in and
Love
that I teach in. Mhm.
and it probably and of course it changes through the season. Like right
Of
now
course.
we're in autumn, and so there's sunflowers here in New England. We're seeing more sunflowers. The sedum is about to fade, although
Mhm.
it still holds the blossom. You can leave it all winter if you choose to for those birds and
For the
that
texture and mhm. Yep.
we're seeing the
Just like
colors change.
mhm.
And there's a lot of different, it's been interesting. I'm an avid gardener as well, and changing, appreciating the changing colors and flavors of the garden as it changes week by week through the season.
Well, and good point. As summer lengthens, as we get further and further into summer, we get those bright golds. And then as we're moving into autumn, we get more bright golds and we get the reds and those colors that remind us to gather in the light,
Mm,
gather in that symbolic fire
mm,
as we're moving into the darker months.
sure.
So it's all about the symbolism of
Mhm,
everything.
mhm,
Everything is symbolic, scents are symbolic, size, flavors, they all mean something.
mhm.
And the beautiful part is they can mean something different to everybody. So I always encourage someone, run it through your own filter.
Sure.
If what Deb tells you doesn't sound great, but you kind of like what Lois is saying, but you need to tweak the
Yeah,
heck out
make
of
it your
it. We're all built differently. We have different filters. So it's not a one plant magic. It's not one size fit all.
own. Mhm,
You take it, communicate with the plants, learn them, you
mhm.
know, become friendly with
Yes.
them,
Yeah.
talk with them. And honestly, you will start, unless you're a very special type of person, you probably won't literally hear them. But suddenly these ideas will pop into your head.
They'll
And
communicate with
trust
you.
me,
Yeah.
yes, that's what's happening. So, those times when you suddenly think, oh, I need to say this, but I don't know where it's coming from, but you feel like you're pulling it from,
Mhm.
you remember like in the old diskettes that we used to have to put in the computers. And it's like, you're retrieving that knowledge. So that is your claircognizance
Mhm.
um, as it relates to the plant world. And the more you do it, the more um, the more confident you are that you're not making stuff up, that the magic is really happening and that you're part of it.
I'm reminded of an experiment that several of us have done over the past summer. Somebody saw this on a social post and have actually gone out and done it. And it's the concept of standing next to a tree,
Mhm.
branch is close to you, and you're standing there with the tree branch, and you say to the branch, come and touch me. I want to feel you. And the branch will reach down and touch you on the head. We've done this. It is are you familiar with this process?
I not with that, but believe me, that's where
Yeah.
I'm headed as soon as we finish up.
It really is. Some of us have recorded it where we're standing there, the branches, it's close, and there's no
Mhm.
breeze, but the branch went because you're sending it love and you send it, you're communicating with the tree, and the tree will just gently round it like or struck you on the face. It's fascinating.
I
Fascinating.
love that. I
Mhm.
love that. Another fun little thing that we can do with trees is to look at their aura,
Mhm.
and everybody can do this. And what you do is look at it with what's called soft eyes, which means you're not really focusing on it. You know it's there, and then kind of in your straight ahead peripheral vision you start seeing the energy of the trees, and you can, as you're communicating, it might actually become bigger,
Mhm.
just like when you get in an elevator and
Yeah.
you kind of mush yourself into the corner because that big stinky dude came in with, like, his laundry basket or something. And you pull your aura in, you pull your energy in.
Right.
Trees have that capacity to protect themselves,
Yeah.
but also to embrace
Yeah.
people and other trees and other plants and
Right.
animals.
Yeah. You know, um, you reminded me of two things. One, I've often noticed here, I know I'm further north in New England, in New Hampshire, where, we're preparing for the cold. It's going to get down into the 30s tonight. So we're having our very first frost tonight. Here we are, mid-November or early October. And this is about the time that happens. But in the spring, when the snow is melting and the spring thaws, it's fascinating to look at the mountains and the trees in the
Mhm.
distance, and it gives off a pink aura. I'm like, okay, spring is coming because I can see the aura around the trees in that
Mhm.
it's like they're exuding growth. And it all
Yes.
heralds a time of, yay, we're about to get through this long, cold winter.
Yes, I love that. I love that. We don't have mountains right where I am, but we're in the foothills of the
Mhm.
Shenandoah or the Blue Ridge.
Yeah,
Um, and so we've got the hills that lead up to it.
yeah.
And as we drive into our house, we can look out and see the trees and the hills and kind of the same thing,
Mhm.
just that energetic glow
Right.
that and all we have to do is be open
Mhm.
to recognizing that
Yeah,
that's what that is. It's something special.
yeah.
We're
It's
not making it up.
Yeah, no, and I
Mhm,
now watch for that every spring when especially I see it when we're on a drive in the car and you're just meandering over the countryside. Oftentimes, if you're busy, you're focused. But like you said, soft eyes as you're driving, because
mhm.
driving you're in somewhat of a hypnotic trance anyway, because you're
Yeah.
driving the car. And it's a wonderful way to look out at the vista and say, "Wow, look at the energy around the trees." Yeah.
Mhm. Yep.
And the
Yeah.
other thing that you brought to mind is this weekend, I am going to be moving 6 huge rhododendron that were planted way too close to the house. And I'm tired of cutting them down every so many years. They want to be big trees.
Mhm.
We're talking, some of them are way up over the roof line. And so I'm going to have to go out there probably tomorrow and sit there and talk to them about their move, and that we're going to lovingly move them to a place where they can be as big as they want. We're not going to have to try and compress them like you were talking in the elevator, where I no longer want to compress them.
Right.
I want them to celebrate because we have other roadies that are 30 feet tall, and that's what they all want to be. It's a shame to try and keep them scrunched and
Right.
down, all these
Right.
blossoms off. So I transplanted about 7 last year, and they've made it. These are even bigger. So I'm going to go out there and talk to them this year and give them a forewarning, about This is
Right.
done with love.
Yep.
Yeah.
Good. Do it. They'll appreciate it.
Yeah, I love my roadies. My arborist says, well, they're really bushes. I'm like, not mine. They're trees. These are
It's
trees.
kind of like our here in Virginia, we're kind of at the northern part of crepe myrtle
Oh,
land.
yes. Yeah.
And we had to top off our crepe myrtles because the one right behind the house, it is almost 3 stories high. And, during the winter, we get wicked winds that come down the valley and it just batters it against the windows. And so we topped her back. And I noticed the other day she's back.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, I love the crepe
no,
myrtles. We don't have them up here. They don't grow very well in this cold climate.
no, we're about at the northern
Yeah,
edge of,
they're
I
so
think. Mhm.
we have to do the same thing. We have some magnolias that we have to cut back, and I go out and I talk with them and I touch them and I hold them and say, we're just giving you a haircut. We're just trimming it back
Right,
so that
right.
you're free to blossom and to grow healthier instead of having your branches break from the we have a problem with the heaviness of the snow snapping the branches. And so we've had to learn to keep them somewhat tighter in order to keep them from snapping. So
Yes, that makes sense.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right. Yep,
love the gardens. Yeah. And
absolutely.
as you're saying, learning what they need. We had this summer or this, yeah, early summer, late spring, I had a really bad blight of rhodey gall. I had to learn about what do they need? Why are they getting this? And had to communicate with them and find a organic treatment, and they're thriving. But I had to really stay on it and recognize that they needed more circulation. They wanted to be trees. They're tired of being too compressed. So thinning them out, letting the air flow, so when we communicate with our flowers and our trees, they thrive. They thrive.
Mhm. Absolutely. And so do we.
100%. When I'm at my best in the garden, at my best.
Absolutely. Dirty, muddy, sweaty
That's right.
is my jam.
Yep. Yep. And I'm sure you've been reading about, and but I've been reading more and more about grounding, earthing, being out barefoot in the gardens. And it is amazing how when I'm barefoot in my gardens or just on the front walkway, because it's brick, so it's still earth connected to earth, I no longer have the back pain I used to have. And I sit a bit with my work, but going out there and walking barefoot, or you can actually get the leather soled earthing shoes too, but it makes a huge difference in how my physical body feels because there's energy from the earth that when it comes up through the soles of our feet, when we connect, it realigns and resets our energy frequency that's more in tune with the energy frequency of our mother earth,
I
right?
love that. I hadn't thought of all those technicalities. I
Mhm.
just know I wear flip-flops as long into winter as I can.
Yeah.
So I could just like run out and, grab the packages or whatever and have my little bit of
Yeah.
earth time. But that totally makes sense. I love that.
Mhm. Learning to live and appreciate. That's one of the things that Mother Gaia said. We need to learn to live more like our native elders, our native cultures, not just Native Americans, but the indigenous people all around the world. Respect, honor, and cherish all parts of the earth, be it the rocks, the trees, the leaves, the flowers, everything.
Mhm. Absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Oh, before I forget, I need to
Yeah, yeah.
ask about fairy gardens because that
Okay.
came up at our Hogwarts Academy a couple of weeks ago. We were talking about fairy gardens because we communicate with the fairies. And so we all determined that we were going to create some fairy gardens. And I thought, oh my goodness, who better to talk with us about fairy gardens than the Queen of Magical Gardens?
The Queen of Fairies herself. Um, so yes, fairy gardens. First, I think maybe we might chat about what is a fairy.
Mhm.
I think that Walt Disney has kind of snagged that word, and people now think automatically of like glitter wings and little tutus and flying around with magic wands. And that's certainly one kind of fairy. A fairy godmother might look something like that. Um, when I use the word fairy, to me that means the spirit of the plants, their soul, their essence, um, almost a physical feeling. Um, if it makes sense, like invisibly physical. But every plant has a soul, it has an essence, it has a personality. And when we start kind of looking at them that way, this little bit of energy kind of can shoot off. And to me, that's what the fairy
Mhm.
are. And I spell it I spell it the old way, Fairy,
Okay.
to differentiate between the Victorian kind of fairies
Mhm.
versus the plant spirits or the woodland spirits.
Right.
Not to be confused with the elementals, but um, so to me, that's what, if I were building a fairy garden, I would be building something that in my mind's eye, in my heart, the spirits of the plants would enjoy, kind of a little playground for them, or a ballroom, or something like that.
Oh, I
Now,
like
there,
ballroom for the plants. I really like that.
I know, right? Yeah. I have this whole storyline coming out with my holiday collection, but that's another a topic for another day. But I think there are certain plants that just kind of say fairy. And it could be because of their texture or their scent or how they flow and move in a breeze. Um, they generally tend to be like small leaves,
Mhm.
um, like thyme. I think thyme absolutely belongs in a fairy garden. Foxglove would
Okay.
be another one.
Yes.
Digitalis purpurea, um, which people do need to be careful of because it is toxic. Um, Animals will stay away from it, but small children would probably be attracted
Sure.
by it. So you want to just, make sure that it's appropriately placed. Other things like moss
Yes.
and ferns, things that just grow naturally
Mhm.
in the woods or on a hillside. Lavender. I think lavender belongs there again because of its well, if you look at it this way, plants that have a strong scent is associated with the element of air.
Okay.
And when you're thinking of what flows around,
Mm.
it would be air. What moves in the air? That would be the long stems, the blooms of lavender.
Right.
So I think that belongs there. Little tiny plants like violas and pansies and violets
Mhm.
um, could easily go in a fairy garden.
In the
Um,
spring, what about lily of the valley?
Yes, absolutely. Those to me look like little
Oh,
scepters,
yes.
little ding. Um, Clover. Clover's a great little fairy
Sure.
garden thing. Clover's also very attractive to bees.
Mm.
And so if you're thinking of little tiny things with wings that kind of move around and communicate and drop a little note here and pick another one up there, it's bees, people.
Oh, yes.
So bees could be fairies.
Mhm.
Um, Little miniature herbs, or herbs again with tiny leaves like rosemary.
Mm.
Rosemaries can grow big, but they're basically very petite
Right.
on their stems. Sage, lemon balm, those two are highly fragrant. All three of those
Mm.
highly fragrant.
Mhm.
Um, so they belong there. And then The last one that I'm thinking of would be those little wild strawberries or the alpine strawberries.
Okay.
They're just teeny tiny. They're sweet as can be, and they look like little caps. So
Also
there's
thinking of
like
stuff like
the plants that come to mind, but we would also want to include a little, maybe a little tiny bird bath,
mm,
or something that's going to pull in all of the elements. So we've got the air element is scent. The
right.
water element would be a tiny pond or a bird bath. Earth would be the mosses and the lichens, the ferns,
Or
and
some
then
stones, pretty stones. Yeah.
stones, exactly. And then fire, we could do that based on a spicy taste. How does something taste?
Mm,
If it's, kind of biting like sage would be, or rosemary or thyme, they've got or basil
mm,
has a strong kind of pungent taste,
mm,
or color.
right.
You could go for the bright yellows and the reds, like the strawberries,
Hmm.
to call in those fire elements. But to me, I would always start with the four elements. I think it's
Right.
a really great um, outline.
Hmm.
It's a great outline to start filling in.
And
If making sure.
things like acorns. I'm also thinking acorns and
Mhm.
mushrooms, the fun mushrooms, because you can always envision like
Exactly.
a
Yes.
little fairy
Well, and
under
then
mushroom.
how about finding a beautiful bird bath that's very shallow? And what if you don't always have it filled with water, but change it as an altar seasonally?
Hmm.
So, like in the fall, right now, you could collect those acorns and the beautiful red and golden leaves and
Leaves.
put those, create a little altar, put some, rocks or whatever calls to you. Fairy gardens love crystals
Hmm.
too, clear quartz, rose quartz, um, any of the calcites would be perfect in a fairy garden.
I have a friend who collects heart rocks everywhere she
There
goes.
you go. Hmm.
So you can see
Or,
the different shapes of
yep.
rocks in there. Yeah.
And how about the rocks that have the little intentions
Mm,
engraved into them, like love and peace and happiness? I mean, those belong in a fairy garden. So I think it's really less about the fairies themselves as it is about creating this very intentional environment that is a way for us to, we're going to go back to that word honor,
hmm.
to honor the seasons and the directions and the elements. So, in effect, a fairy garden could become a very large altar
Mm,
where everything has meaning.
right. It's like a little sanctuary that you could escape to,
Exactly.
and it would be
Yes,
inviting to the fairies that would then bless you back.
exactly.
Hmm.
Yes, when we gift somebody something, the proper response is, oh my gosh, I love it. Thank you so much. What can I do in return? So we're
Yes.
just starting that process by
Right.
building this out as a gift
Hmm.
and not necessarily expecting a thank you, but knowing that that's pretty much polite society.
And they'll appreciate it. Yes.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly. And if nobody else does, we will.
And that's one of the things, moving these big old roadies that are planted way too close to the house gives me an opportunity to develop a place for a more magical perennial bed fairy garden
Yes.
rose.
Yes.
Yeah, I've
You
already.
could have a white garden. You could have a night blooming garden.
Mm,
You could have a fragrant garden.
mhm,
Um, it opens up all kinds of possibilities. And then when we do these things with incredible intention and great love, that's when the fairies or the spirits, the devas,
mhm,
the higher being of those plants, the soul of the plants really comes into communication
right.
with us. It's a two-way street.
Mhm.
So you've got great opportunities by moving those roadies.
Last year we had to resculpt part of my gardens, and I had a couple of bids from different people, and they wanted to bring in rocks, and I'm like, I live in the Granite State. So this gentleman came with his tractor, and I would just point and point and point, and we would find the different rocks. We built two rock walls from rocks that were on the property, and it was kind of fun to know, let's turn it this way so we can see the moss. Let's turn it this way so we can
Mhm.
and then of course I love stacking the stones. What is that called when you stack them on top of one another? So I have wonderful little stacks of stones here, there, and
I
everywhere.
love those. I don't know what they're called either,
There's a
but
name for them, but
there
I
is. I don't know, something meditative, I'm sure.
just being playful. The gardens are there for us. It is a meditative sanctuary. And you
Mhm.
create something like that on a patio, on a courtyard. It doesn't have to be a big space.
Yep.
You can
In
find
a,
a
a
place.
window box, a
Oh, yeah.
planter. So just do it. Just
Yeah.
see how it feels.
And with winter coming and we want to earth or ground, you can do that by touching a plant. I have plants throughout, and I have a place down in my family room where I have a whole window full of huge plants, and that is my sanctuary. I can just go and be in they're indoor plants, but they're part of nature. They're a living part of the energy, and it really infuses us with all that good energy.
Absolutely. Love that.
Well,
Yeah.
Deb, this was fabulous. Any
Thank
last
you,
thoughts you'd
Lois.
like to share? You've got a new season coming up?
Oh, I do. I do. We're right in the middle of the still room collection. So I create all of my products, my candles and incense and teas based on the seasons.
Ah,
And so the autumn season was called the still room,
okay.
which is another nod to where, um, the old healers and witches would dry their herbs and concoct their elixirs. And that ends October 31st. And November 1st, I launch the holiday collection. So I'm already stocking shelves and writing descriptions and stories, and um, it'll just be fun. And um, I'm traveling a lot to different events between now and my last one is December 20th.
Oh my,
So
yeah.
I know I'm so busy, but I wouldn't have it any other way. But thank you at the beginning for mentioning that people might want to sign up for my newsletter,
Definitely.
which comes out twice a week. And I promise they're not overly intense. Tuesdays, I call my inspiration. So it's a story. It's like, where in the heck in the world are we right now? Season wise or harvest wise. And then Fridays is magic mail.
Okay.
And I like to highlight some products that are in sync with the season. So they can find me if they want to on my website, which is Enchanted Botanicals with the S at the end.com. Um, also on Instagram at Enchanted Botanicals. And I am on Facebook, but I always forget to go there
I,
because I'm
I hear
so
you.
busy doing everything else. And
Well,
and YouTube. I'm also on YouTube,
oh, good.
Enchanted
Well, and
Botanicals.
we'll post this on YouTube as well, and I'd love for you to share it as well. One of the other
Absolutely.
your treasures come wrapped. They're always when they come in the mail, it's like you get to unwrap a present. It's really so.
Well, I think, people take the time to go to my website to look at the shop, to make their selection and then purchase.
Mhm.
And I want them to feel like they're getting more than a candle or a bath soap or
Yep.
whatever. I want it to be this pretty little experience.
Mhm.
And, I say that I'm smaller than a small business. I'm a micro business. And I like it that way. I like creating in limited numbers so that I know who each candle is going to. If I see people in person at events, I know who it's going to. And so I try to do the same with my online peeps as well.
Well,
So
I'm an online peep and I
you
love
are. Thank you.
you so much for the work you do. And
Oh
we'll
my
share
God.
far and wide. And if you enjoy these shows, follow us on YouTube and Rumble and at the website, loisherman.com. Until next time, everyone, look up, stay positive, and be the light in someone's day. Bring the fairies too. God bless.
Thank you.
Bye for now.